Hi folks, nice relaxed one today. It is a ranty video, but at the same time it's one that I think is a discussion that we've been boiling over on the channel for some time. It's something that I've mentioned a lot, but we've not really jumped into it as a full-on subject of a video just yet. So, if you like what I do, please, and if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 15,000 subscribers. If we can get there before the end of the year, I will be absolutely overjoyed. So please, help me reach that target. Help me get up there, and if you know anyone who could get some help or would enjoy my videos, and send this across to them, see if they like it. If they don't need to subscribe. There's no skin off their nose. All good. Also, we are doing a prize draw this Sunday. This Sunday is the prize draw. So, if you want to be involved in that, then make sure that you subscribe to the Patreon or you become a member of the channel. Either way, you are supporting the channel financially, you are a legend, and I love you very, very much. Aside from that, if you're going to get any models over the next few weeks, make sure you go over to Composite Games and you give them some love. Use the promo code Northern Exile down below to get yourself 5% off of your order at checkout. So, now that my reads are done, let's head into this bit of a rant. It wasn't meant to be a rant, I'll be honest with you. But when I started writing it, I started coming up with more and more things, pieces of research, looking into my time at Games Workshop and also the trends in terms of the money that's been coming into Games Workshop over the years, especially since they've made the changes that I'm going to sort of rail against. So it's become a rant over time. So this is 40k and why it has a huge weakness as a setting. A huge weakness. I'm sure you can tell by the thumbnail what kind of weakness I'm talking about. Warhammer 40,000, to me, was never meant to move forward as a setting. It was never created that way. We can see from the way things are going with modern 40k that this is not a setting that even knows how to move forwards. From the return of Rabute Gilliman making him look like some kind of Superman, to the Lion being brushed under the carpet despite being given the biggest setup to return ever. I ranted about that before. I promised to not do it for too long again, but my god, for 30 years, we were given the perfect setup of, the Rockers being annihilated, the Rockers being attacked by Chaos. The Lion gets back up, kicks ass, and off we go, right? But obviously we can't have that, so we have this ridiculous dream sequence instead, in which he comes back. Just nonsense, absolute nonsense. Angron is back, and what event happened to bring him back for good? Why is Angron now back for good? It wasn't the Orcs of Omen, I'll tell you that now, because the Orcs of Omen was a MacGuffin chase from somebody who's watched too much modern Star Wars. Mortarion came back to fight Gilliman and lose. Magnus came back to destroy Fenris and failed because Space Wolves aren't allowed to lose. This part of the argument has two explanations for why 40k was never meant to move forwards, and why it has done such a poor job in doing so. Number one, either the writing staff at Games Workshop doesn't have the talent needed to handle these returns, or the setting itself is not built for such returns and are moving forwards of the setting. I will leave the former for now, because we've been there before. I've talked about Games Workshop and their writing talents before. We know that's true. We know they can't really handle a project of this size and magnitude. And I will move on to the latter point, in that 40k was never meant to move forwards. And I've never really discussed this before on the channel. I've discussed things around it, but I've never really got to the meat of the issue. Which is why I like doing these videos, because it finally lets me put a capstone on something that's been swirling around in my videos for quite a while, that people always seem to pick up on in the comments, and say, we'd like to hear more about that, please. So, here we are. So 40k is about things being gradually lost. Yeah? It's an autumn setting. What do I mean by this? Well, 40k is a setting that is the very epitome of rage against the dying of the light. I'm sure you've all heard that phrase, right? You've all heard that part of a poem. I forget which poem it was now. But it's, rage against the dying of the light. That is 40k in its essence. Everything in 40k is sweeter, more heroic, because the setting is doomed. There is a really cool speech given in 2004's Troy by Achilles, and this speech was in the Iliad, but it was phrased a little bit differently. And he says, Achilles says to a woman, the gods aren't very impressive. I've seen the gods, right? Do you want to know a secret about the gods? They envy us. They live forever, and so everything is grey and bland and doesn't mean anything, right? I'm ad-libbing, of course. It doesn't mean anything. Everything is sweeter to us as mortals because we're doomed. The grass smells sweeter. The peach you're eating is the sweetest peach you've ever tasted, right? The happiest you see gods in the myths of ancient Greece is when they're temporarily mortal. It happens sometimes. Happens in Ovid's Metamorphoses quite a lot, where a god becomes mortal for a little bit, and then all of a sudden they're eating and drinking, and they're like, this is amazing, and I want this to go on forever. But then they realise the reason why it's amazing is because it can't go on forever. It's a momentary thing. You've got to enjoy it while it's there. That's why 40k is such a good setting for the same reasons, because it's doomed. It's transitory. Okay? If the setting is moving forwards and heroes are returning, the setting is not doomed by the very definition, right? That's why I always compare the Imperium story to ancient Greece, because they are very similar. By very definition, if the heroes of ancient Greece start returning in the modern setting, as in classical Greece, if we have Achilles walking around Athens at the time of Heracles, right? Things kind of lose all their meaning, because we are living in the autumn world where we are now. We're trying to make the best of a bad situation. That's a heroic effort that people like Pericles are trying to make for their city. If Achilles just comes back and says, the gods are back now, hooray, right? The struggle's kind of robbed. It kind of goes away. It becomes less interesting to read about the stories of the ancient Greeks then, doesn't it? Right? The heroes and gods of ancient Greece are so cool because they die. They leave, and never to be seen again on Earth. Right? The Imperium's the same. The Imperium is the exact same. Even the technology of the Imperium was slated to never move forwards. But there were concrete and logical rules as to why the technology of the Imperium remained stagnant. It was religious dogma, that only things created in the time of the Emperor were meant to be invented at all. That AI and super advanced technology is inherently dangerous because of things that have happened in the past that have nearly extinguished mankind. That having such technology could bring humanity to worship it rather than the Emperor as a deity. There is a reason why totalitarian regimes kill all of their educated citizens first. Anyone who has studied World War II will know the tragic consequences of telling the Third Reich that you had a degree in anything, especially if you were not ethnically German. The Imperium is a totalitarian regime, with edge and grim darkness baked into its soul. It was founded in tragedy at the end of the Horus Heresy. It was founded in fear. There is a very good reason why we don't move forward with technology. There are a multitude of law reasons, and they all link together beautifully. If you remember my Ogres video from last week, alright? This time last week we did an Ogres video. It's very similar. Very, very, very similar. Like the Imperium is a beautifully written piece of law. In its sheer bombastic massiveness. The reason why I don't use it as the best piece of law Games Workshop have ever done anymore is because, well, it's not anymore. Because it's moved on. The Imperial Aquila, or whatever you want to call it, has one eye looking forwards. The other one is closed. Alright? Why? If you look at the Imperial Aquila now, go drag it up on Google. See what it looks like. You have one eye looking forwards, not backwards. Why does it not look backwards? The past was far more advanced in technology than we are now. In 40k, advancement happens in reverse. It happens backwards. The more we go on in time, the more things are lost. It's a melancholy setting when you're fighting to bring the light to the setting. It's a big setting saying, everything's bad, are you going to make it better? And you go, God damn, yes I am. I'm going to buy some Space Marines, I'm going to buy some Guardsmen, and I'm going to make it better, God damn it. Or the Eldar had the right thing all along. I'm going to be on the Eldar side, damn it, and I'm going to make this place how it should be. I'm a Tau. I like being on the side of the greater good. We have all the answers. Don't listen to the warp. Come with me, damn it. Or, I'm Chaos. I don't give a shit about anything. In fact, my guys had it right all along. Chaos is the primordial truth. Here we go, right? That's what it's all for. You're meant to think, I can make a difference here. Things are going wrong. Even the Imperial Aquila tells us that the past is too dangerous, too tragic to look upon. This is a wonderful piece of lore, and old school 40k is full of these little tidbits of lore that really link in beautifully together. Even the more silly concepts in 40k lore, like the cherubs and servo skulls, are explained in ways that make complete logical sense, right? The servo skull is a thing because the brain is still inside of it. The brain is preserved by technology that's inside of the servo skull and uses it as a computer. Why? Because we're not allowed to develop AI. And the processes that we need to do in the Imperium are so vast, so massive, that we can't do it without AI. Unless we use the human brain. We use 20 servo skulls, and that is the same as an AI, but it has no awareness and is literally just a big, massive computer in a skull. Wonderful piece of storytelling there. Wonderful. And there are certain servo skulls that are from criminals, and so their brains aren't very good. And so they're the ones that just carry messages from place to place. Brilliant. Love it, right? This all goes away if we start introducing new technology to the Imperium. And in a phrase, the Primaris Marines were a tactical nuke dropped on most of the good things about 40k. Alright. Controversy, I know. So, do not get me wrong, please. Alright? I love the models of the Primaris Marines. I love them. Upscaling the new Marine line was a good move. But it didn't need a lore reason to happen. This is a can of worms that never had to be opened. And once it's opened, you can't close it again. Alright? Belisarius Cawl just sidestepping the Emperor's plan and the Imperium just going along with it is the biggest fuck you to the Blanche-style Imperium of 3rd to 7th edition 40k ever. It simply should not have happened. So why did it happen? Alright? Hopefully you can realise already that why I don't think it should have happened. I'm going to explain. Just a quick aside. The Primaris Marines shouldn't be a thing. And the reason they shouldn't be a thing is because every single core tenet of lore that I've just spoken about there, that was really cool and links into each other, is completely broken if you throw something like this into the mix. Okay? Every facet of the Imperium should annihilate Belisarius Cawl and should kill all of the Primaris Marines. If you read the lore, if you've been a big 40k fan from 1st edition right the way through to 7th, you know that Imperium kills the Primaris Marines on sight. Wherever Cawl's doing this, if they find out about it, they go over and they nuke the place from orbit. Alright? They would rather die on their own terms than here's one of the most beautiful lines in Mass Effect, said by Commander Shepard at the end of the 2nd game, okay, when he's told to use the horrid experiments of the Reapers to make humanity better. He says, "I won't let fear compromise who I am." Now, if you're a renegade or a bad guy, renegade, or you're a good guy, paragon, it doesn't matter. You say the same thing. Because a hero says those things. Right? Even if you're a bad guy, you're doing bad things for the right reasons. He says, "I won't let fear compromise who I am." That's what the Imperium of 1st to 7th edition would have said about the Primaris Marines. I don't give a shit. I will fight with what I have, because it's what the Emperor gave me. And if I'm meant to lose, it's in the Emperor's plan. Okay? But I'm doing this. And you know what? Through sheer force of belief, I would love this to be all a red herring, right? And the only thing stopping the Emperor's return, ironically, is that science is now coming back into the Imperium. That Cawl is now bringing science, and Gilliman is now bringing law and order back to the Imperium. That's stopping the Emperor from returning. Because he's on the cusp of godhood right now. just when we got to that point where he was about to come back because the Great Rift is about to happen, I reckon the Great Rift, if I was writing this, the Great Rift would have been the point where the Emperor's prophesies to return. It doesn't happen because of what Cole does. He brings back the Primaris Marines, he brings back Guilliman, right? The Imperium starts to lose faith in the Emperor, only slightly, only by like a 0.0.1%, but it's enough to stall the Emperor's return as a fully fledged person, just walking around and things like that, leading the Imperium. How fucking ironic would that be? And 40k, and let me tell you, as a setting, loves a bit of dramatic irony. It loves irony, right? So, the Imperium of, 1st to 7th edition would say, look, I won't let fear compromise who I am. Take your Primaris Marines and shove them up your slightly metallic arse, alright? Not that you have an arse left, because I nuked it 20 minutes ago. All of that good stuff goes away if we start introducing new technology into the Imperium. And I don't think the Primaris Marines as models are wrong, I just think their inclusion in the lore is wrong. And it's taken me years to come to this conclusion. I'm not perfect, right? Quite a lot of the things about me as a writer aren't very good. It's taken me a long time to come and see the light. So why did it happen? Well, in another short phrase, it happened to sell your models. That's it. And now we come to the main weakness of 40k as a setting that I've mentioned in other videos but never really covered in depth. 40k is not a setting, at least not anymore. It is a vehicle to sell you things, namely toy soldiers. As such, its internal lore and workings do and must fit with this direction. Every facet of it should be to show you how cool the models are and how they work on the tabletop. This was not always the case, however. In fact, this is quite a new direction Games Workshop have taken. That may seem strange, but 40k from 1st to 7th edition was a setting first. Forever growing and having things added to it, yes, but a setting all the same. The books that were released in it, like Eisenhorn, the Iron Snakes novels, Ben Counter's Grey Knights novels, Gaunt's Ghosts, and so on and so forth, were created as serious additions to the canon. They were top-selling sci-fi books that outstripped a lot of other sci-fi writers in terms of quality, even those way outside of the hobby. Now, what do we have? Well, each Era Indomitus novel reads like a fucking comic book. The setting broke at the end of 7th edition, and I was there. I saw it happen from the inside. A lot of us at Games Workshop were really pumped that the setting was moving on, that new models were out, but the old guard at GW, the older heads, the guys in the studios who've been there for a long, long time, decades even, the older managers who've been there for a long time, they kind of treated it like a bit of a funeral. Because Games Workshop had done it. They had made the decision to open Pandora's box, and nothing in the hobby or beyond would be able to stop what came out. They knew something we didn't. The old guard. They knew that the decision to move the setting forwards, to break its core tenets in the lore, was made for all the wrong reasons. It was made for money. It was made for mainstream success quickly, grimdark be damned. It was made for greed. And it's a gamble, if we're being honest, that has paid off in sales, don't get me wrong. The pandemic, though, I think, has had a lot to do with the success of modern 40k. It does justify, sadly, Games Workshop's attitude to the old guard in terms of customers. The phrase, "what have you done for us lately?" is their question. They jettisoned many of you older hobbyists, and look at their profits. They are soaring. Remember, though, that whilst they crowed that they made the right decision in getting rid of you, that we have had a pandemic to force a captive audience into Warhammer, and 2 full editions of Warhammer 40,000 to boost those sales in the time since 8th edition dropped. An unprecedented set of favourable circumstances that I don't think people give enough credence to. Let me take a drink here. Yorkshire tea. My love. Moving on. So, again, just recovering that point. And a lot of us seem to dismiss the fact that, you know, any positive mitigating circumstances have happened to Games Workshop. They definitely have, right? They don't admit it, they don't talk about it, but they definitely have. If you look at the state of, you know, 8th edition came out, and it was a much simpler version of the rules, probably the best version of the rules they've ever made. So the game exploded a little in popularity. That was all Games Workshop. That was all them. Then we have the pandemic that comes in and makes it even more popular as a simple game to get into. Then 9th edition drops, which they screw up, but never mind that. Then 10th edition drops. And they make all the same promises of, oh, it's going to be much simpler from now on, blah, 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 right? Those 3 things, maybe 4 things, have led to an unprecedented rise in Games Workshop stock value, which is now decreasing, by the way. If you don't look at it now, it's now coming back down to a normal level. I don't think getting rid of you old guard, the old guys who love the John Blanche art, the old guys who love the Imperium and the setting for what it was, I don't think getting rid of you was a good long-term move. In fact, I think it was a boneheaded move that over the next 10 years will come to really bite them in the arse, because casuals are just that. Casuals. They're not the people who are going to get more people into the hobby. Your veterans are. Because a lot of us, when we're younger, we look up to said veterans, and we have them teach us things about the hobby, and we love it, and we get involved, and we become veterans ourselves. And we spread the disease that is Warhammer 40,000 to all of our friends. And they become veterans, and on and on and on we go. There are no more veteran nights in Warhammer stores. That is a real tragedy. I love veteran nights. I love them so much because any good Games Workshop would invite beginners to veteran nights. It'd be like, yeah, please come along. You can see how the game's meant to be played, right? You're there on a Sunday, on Beginner's Sunday, that's fine. But on veteran night, head on in on a Thursday night, and you can see how the game's meant to be played. And you may even get a game in against a veteran who will teach you how to play the game. Those were the days, right? Those veterans are now no longer in the hobby for the most part. Why? Because their hobby was broken, abused, and thrown out the window to make a quick buck. My issue here is not that Games Workshop is making a lot of money. In fact, I think it's great that when it does make a lot of money, because at the end of the day, as much as we don't like it, they are the Disney of our hobby. If they fail, you know, a lot of money and attention is taken away from other products. There are a lot of people out there who've gotten into War Machine, to Battletech, and all these other games simply because they got tired of Games Workshop, but they got into the hobby through Games Workshop. They got tired of them and they moved on to something else. If Games Workshop goes away, do we really trust games like Battletech? I know it's going to be controversial, but games like Battletech and Star Wars Legion and all these other games to pull new hobbyists in? I'm not sure they could do it in a way that Games Workshop does. Not because Games Workshop's good at pulling in hobbyists. They're not. They're terrible at it, right? They're terrible at recruiting customers and recruiting people into the hobby. They're awful at it, right? What they're good at is selling a brand. And I think what they've done here with Warhammer 40,000 as a setting is that they've realised where their strengths lie and they've leaned into them. Instead of getting better, getting good, as you would say it, instead of getting better, they've lent into what they do best. So, my issue is not that Games Workshop is making money, quite the opposite. It's that I think that money could have been made without bastardising your own setting and getting rid of your older customers. How? Alright, I'll quickly go over it. In terms of your setting, 1, you move the setting forward, sure, that's something we can't get rid of. 40k has to move forwards as a setting. Alright, I'll take that as read. But you keep the soul of the Imperium intact. The Primarchs should either adapt when they return to the Imperium through great mental strife and, you know, being battered into submission, or they should simply just fucking die. The Primaris, if I'm being honest, shouldn't exist. Just change the scale of your models to make them look more realistic. People will be pissed, because if they've got older models, sure, but most would understand the need for change going forwards. If you have to have the Primaris in the setting, have them return with the authorization of a Primarch, like Guilliman or Dawn, who returns to ask the Emperor for his approval in creating them. Even then, there should only be enough resources to create like 1,500 of them. These dudes are Custodes level Space Marines, and one is given to each of the Space Marine chapters as a champion, a standalone champion of their bloodline, or a commander if need be. There you go, Games Workshop. I've kept your setting intact. I've kept everything as it is. I've kept you scientifically stagnant. I've kept all of the old guard happy, and you now have 1,500 mini Primarchs running around the galaxy to make new models of, and you've given all of the people out there who want to convert their own Primarch model carte blanche to make whatever the fuck they want. You're welcome. I'll take my check now, please. The grimdark, the hopelessness should all be there. Keep all of that in there. Don't bring hope to the Imperium. The players bring the hope to the Imperium. The people in the Imperium don't. That's the whole love of the setting right there. Guilliman isn't the hero of 40k. Fucking I am, bitch. I buy the models. I play the games. I'm the customer here. Right? I'm the main character. If I play Mass Effect, I don't want fucking David Anderson to be the main character. I'm playing Commander Shepard, bitch. I'm the main character. It's an empowering thing. A hugely addictive, empowering thing that says all of the right stuff. 40k teaches you arithmetic. It teaches you social skills. It teaches you tactical skills and awareness. It teaches you artistic things like painting, modelling, carving, scaling. All of these different things you get to do as part of the hobby. And it teaches you how to fucking write creatively, which is a huge skill. It teaches you to use your imagination. And on top of all of that, it puts you in the driver's seat as their hero. How fucking cool is that? But when we've got Guilliman and all these people running around, they're the main character now. They're the hero now. And oh my god, you did a fucking great job of telling us we weren't welcome anymore. Yeah, you did a really good job of that, right? There was once a meeting we had in Nottingham where we're sitting there, we're looking over the Christmas brochure, right? And one of our guys, I've said this before, but one of our guys just says, you know, hey, I've noticed, I've counted, Robute Guilliman in this little brochure is mentioned 117 times. We only have 20 pages. Right? That's not interesting. You've ruined the Imperium. Okay? If you want to, fine. Destroy Cadia and give Abaddon his own vast empire that is pushing against the Imperium out of the eye, okay? So not only have we destroyed Cadia at the end of 7th edition with a big thing, right, to bring in the new rule set, but we've given Abaddon a fucking win, right? He now has his own empire. There isn't this rewriting of history to make him look good. No, there's none of that, right? We have his own empire. He's there. He's pushing against the Imperium, and he might win. Are these the end times? We don't know. Here's the thing. 40k has had its end times. I'm telling you, the end of 7th edition, people were saying it's not the end times. It was. It was the end times in disguise. In disguise. Because the Great Rift being there, and all of these Primarchs coming back and acting like they've got fucking... They got schizophrenia, right? All of these things, breaking the Imperium, breaking the setting, breaking the feel of what 40k feels like and the setting. They nuked it. They got rid of the Blanchian Imperium. It's gone. The Grimdark Imperium, the Grimdark setting's gone. It's in the past. It ended at the end of 7th edition, right? We've had our end times in 40k. It's gone. We're now playing Age of Sigmar. That's what we're doing. We're now playing 40k Age of Sigmar. Saturday morning cartoons, you know. Even when we have things like the Shield of Baal, it's just... The novels are really gory and really cool and all that kind of thing. I get that. What you're not understanding is, right, is that violence isn't grimdark. What the modern writers seem to think is that if they throw a lot of like torture porn in there, a lot of all the violence isn't grimdark. The feeling of grimdark and hopelessness is grimdark. Fighting against the grain of a dying light is grimdark. Having the Shield of Baal happen just for Robute Gilliman to just ride in and save the day isn't fucking grimdark, it's shit. It's shit. Alright, the end times happened. And we lost. I'm sorry to say. Alright? If you really wanted the Great Rift or something similar to have Primarchs come back, say the walls between the warp and real space are getting weaker, and so more traitors and Primarchs can get through without breaking your entire setting in the first place. Right? There are ways in the lore to do this without nuking your entire setting from orbit. This is why I mean it was a conscious, on-purpose decision by Games Workshop to break the old Imperium, to get rid of the old setting and bring in a new one, the Era Indomitus. The Era Indomitus is not the same setting as the Imperium of Man from 1st to 7th edition. When you're playing video games like Deathwing, when you're playing video games like Dawn of War, that's not the same setting that we have now. Alright? We moved 40k onwards, sure, and in my explanation here, you can move it forwards, but keep its core soul intact. By the way, is one last thing. Primarchs should only be in the setting for a little while before the Imperium fucking kills them. Loyalist or traitor, I don't care. The advantage of Chaos is that their Primarchs can come back, as they are demons. So what we've done here, we've given the Loyalist a bit of a power boost. Yeah? And they've got those 1500 custodies like guys. But every Loyalist Primarch who comes back, there's a huge campaign about them, and then a few years later in the real world, they're killed off. And they're killed not by traitors, by the fucking Imperium. Because they start railing against the Imperium, and the Imperium goes, nope. Sorry. We're totalitarian now. That's what we do. There is no hope here. There is only war. Die. Can you imagine the butt hurt and like, oh my god, I killed Gilliman, right? Can you imagine that? That would be a Red Wedding style fucking event in geekdom. It would. And do it time and time again. Just say, yeah, they're fucking dead. They don't belong here. They don't belong in this age of hopelessness, in this age of grim darkness, of raging against the dying of the light. They created the dying of the light. Get rid of them. Keep your 1500 super marines. One for each Space Marine faction. One for each one. They're the new Primarchs. They're the new guys. They're nowhere near the same level as a Primarch, but they're fucking cool. And they're basically custodies. They're basically immortal. Unless you kill them, of course. Right? The advantage of Chaos is that their Primarchs can come back because they're demons. So we keep the fact that Chaos has the advantage and is slowly pushing the Imperium back. That was the entire setting, and it's still the setting here. If you're going to be grimdark, don't be a coward. Fucking commit to it. They didn't want to. They destroyed that setting. It's gone. It's never coming back. And that's a shame. It's a big shame as far as I'm concerned. Alright? But it's always here in a way. Because we're here. And we love this setting. And we love this, shall we say, tapestry of stuff. We love it. And you can make the Imperium what you want. That's the beautiful thing. We can all still have this. You just have to ignore 90% of the modern lore because it's nonsense. Unfortunately. Anyway, love you all long time. There will be a really cool... Like, when I read the start of a Hobby Nightmare tomorrow that was going to be on the thumbnail. And I was just giggling because it was just I empathise with this guy so much, and mate, when you see the thumbnail tomorrow, you'll get it. Like, this is amazing. I love Hobby Nightmares right now. We're getting so many good ones in. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye.